The first commercial video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey, debuted in August 1972. Equipped with 1-bit, 2-color graphics, and no sound, it set the standard for the first generation of home entertainment consoles. To simulate color graphics, the console included colored plastic filters to apply to the television screen. The first game for the Odyssey, Table Tennis, inspired the far more popular Atari game Pong, which was released shortly thereafter. Released in October 1977, the Atari Video Computer System, later named Atari 2600, was a pioneer of the second generation of home video game consoles and was the first to gain worldwide popularity. This system connected to your television and required game cartridges in order to play. It originated with only 9 different games, many of which were popular arcade games, including Frogger, Miss Pac-Man, and Pole Position. The hardware included a 6507 processor and a mere 128 bytes of RAM. Both CPU and graphic clocks ran at 1.19 MHz. Shown here is Pole Position. It was a popular racing game that featured a car graphic with turning wheels. You would steer the car from side to side while the track moved below it. These simple but powerful graphics gave the player the feeling they were actually moving across the track. The third generation consoles marked the beginning of the 8-bit generation. Launched in Japan in 1983 and equipped with a 1.8 MHz CPU and 2 kilobytes of both main and video memory, the NES powered its way to becoming the best-selling console of all time, selling nearly 62 million consoles worldwide. Able to simultaneously display 25 colors from a 53-color palette, the NES introduced the world to classic video game franchises such as Super Mario Bros., Zelda, Mega Man, and Final Fantasy. In November of 1990, 7 years after the original Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo finally released the 4th-generation successor, the 16-bit Super NES. They upgraded the CPU to 3.5 MHz, and with 128 kilobytes of memory, the Super NES had 60 times the memory of the original NES. This sizable leap in processing gave game developers the ability to create large, lifelike worlds with more colors and animations than ever before. The Super NES appealed to a wide audience with its diverse selection of games, especially with follow-ups to the successful franchises on the NES. Sequels such as Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and Super Metroid. By 1995, Sony entered the console marketplace with their first console, the Sony PlayStation. This turned out to be the first in what would become a very successful franchise of consoles. It was the undisputed winner of the 5th generation era of game consoles, with 2 custom 32-bit video display processors at 28.63 MHz each. Shown here is Gran Turismo. It was the best-selling game of all time for the PlayStation.